Well, hello there. This is Craig Hain. My students call me Dr. Dell, and I am an 83-year-old mathematics teacher. I've been teaching math for many, many decades, very successfully to many, many students at all levels. And this message, this video, is aimed at the leaders of high schools that really have a lot of really struggling students that are at 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, or whatever grade in high school. And this video is about what I call SME, which I'm going to call it special math education for the purpose of this video. Because as I know, there are many, many students in school today that are struggling with math and failing math one way or another, and it's causing them to fail in many other subjects, maybe even drop out of school. And it's all totally unnecessary today, thanks to modern technologies I'm going to tell you about and what you as a school leader can do about it. Now, I've written many books on the subject, but one of them I've written recently is called Dr. Dell. Now, that's me. Golden Rule Math. That's the way I would want to be taught math today, knowing what I know about math and the way I believe that it ought to be taught. And excuse me, something popped up on my screen here. I want to get rid of it. And this particular book is for struggling math students. Now, this is 21st century math education for 21st century math students, things that you've not seen before. I'll guarantee you're going to learn things on this video that you didn't know about. And in order to do that, I'm going to share the screen with you. And so here is the screen share. Now, first of all, you can go to my website, craighain.com, and learn all about me at my website. And there I have my story. I was once failing in math when I was in school many, many decades ago. I was saved by a couple of wonderful teachers. I tell all about it. My vita, what I've done. I have a PhD in mathematics. I've taught math at all levels. And I particularly love teaching young students that are struggling with math and getting them turned around, because it's just a life-changing thing. That's actually more satisfying than teaching the advanced theoretical math to students that don't have a problem with it. Now, on my website, I have written a lot of books, but one of them is called How and Why Homeschool Math could be vastly superior to public school math, because homeschool teachers can do things today that the public schools are not doing, and don't make many think they can't do, but I believe you can do it. And so you can go, and if you click on that link, you'll go to this book, and it'll tell you all about math education in the 21st century and how it can be done, and particularly how you could be done for your students. Now, my corporate website is triadmathinc.com. It's a 10-year-old company. We've been doing this for a long time. We have lots and lots of very great success stories to share with you. And our whole mission and our corporate mission is to deliver an optimal math education for 21st century students. And on this particular video, I want to talk about struggling students that you have. Now, you can go to another website that we have called Golden Rule Math. And I've written several books now on Golden Rule Math that you can go and purchase at Amazon. And that's fine and dandy. The one that I want to tell you about is the for struggling math students. And you can get a free copy, a PDF copy here. You click on that and it'll take you to Golden Rule Math for struggling math students. And you can come down here and it'll tell you what it's all about. There's a video about it. You can go buy it on Amazon, but you can download a free PDF copy of it. And so if you download it, this is what you'll get. This will be your free PDF copy. And I encourage you to do that. And you can look at the table of contents and see what it's all about. How does this work? What makes this work? Well, the answer is two things. Number one, you have to practice what I call SPIKE pedagogy. That's an acronym I made up, SPIKE. Self-pacing is critically important. And your students will do extremely well if they can be self-paced. But equally important, maybe even, I won't say more important, but equally important, is proper content. Unfortunately, what's being taught today in many of our math programs and what I call the standard math curriculum is not proper content for struggling students that are just trying to get going. And I'm going to tell you what is a proper content in just a moment. You need interactivity. Math is like a sport. They've got to play the game to learn it, and they got to keep score as you do it. So every time they achieve something, they get an attaboy, add a girl, add a person, add a student. And there has to be empathy and humor, because when math is like a sport, you make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes are good. That means you're progressing, you're learning, you learn from your mistakes. You try to avoid making the same one over and over, but there's always new mistakes to learn. Now, in order to do that successfully, you need two things. You need a really good math teacher, can explain the math and has the proper content and all of that. And it's almost like a tutor interactive, but you also need a good coach. Doesn't have to be a math teacher. It could just be somebody that knows how to coach students. And in fact, I've got a chapter on how to be a great coach. And in this book, I tell Grace Libman's story. This was a struggling homeschool student. She was actually struggling in school. She dropped out. She took my math program, and now she's succeeding at it. And all of a sudden, it's working for her. I tell my own story because this is how this all came about and what happened. And then I have future math possibilities that I talk about. And what I want to talk to you about is what is appropriate now for struggling students and what you can do about it. And so in order to do that, I think what I will do for now is I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll tell you what we do. We start your student off and we teach them, the very first thing I'm going to teach your struggling student is how to use the TI-30XA scientific calculator. Now, this is a marvelous calculator. It's fantastic. Scientific calculator has been around for about 50 years now. They came out in the early 1970s, but this is much better than the original ones that came out. And it's less than $10, very inexpensive. So if you lose it or break it or whatever, it's not a big deal. And it's very rugged and durable. And it runs on a battery, but the battery lasts for a long, long time. And this calculator is the key to doing arithmetic, because if you're going to do math, you got to do arithmetic. And the manual tools for doing it are hard to learn, and they're boring, and people don't like it. This is fun. It's kinesthetic. Most students, when they take the lessons on this calculator, they absolutely love it. And all of a sudden they say, well, this is easy. I can do this. And I've had this happen thousands of times. Now, it's extremely important that two things happen when you study my spike pedagogy. Number one, each lesson you teach a student has to be like a tutorial, self-paced. So what I've done is every one of my lessons, I have a video I've done, and the student has control of the video. They can pause it, they can back it up, they can leave it, come back to it, watch it as many times as they need to. And then I teach them a specific lesson and I show them how to do something. Then I give them exercises to do. And that's where they really learn it. They do lots and lots of exercises, as many as they need to do. If they're having trouble with exercise, they go back and watch the video some more, then they go back, exercises back and forth. Now, if you have a lot of students working like you might in a school, you can have some of the more advanced students actually help some of the students that are struggling. That's fine and dandy. It's not necessary. So that's how that works. Then after they think they've mastered that particular lesson, there's a quiz. It's a 3-question quiz. And it's just like the exercises they've done, nothing tricky. And it's just like doing the exercises, and they got to do all 3 of them. And then they move to the next lesson. It's like climbing a ladder. We don't let them skip steps. We also encourage them, and this is where the coach now comes in, to go back and review, because you might learn something today and then you forget it a week from now, 2 weeks from now. You got to go back and repeat it and relearn it. But the next time it's much easier. Now, I have a notebook that goes with this first tier 1, you're going to learn about when you read the book. And this is the book, this is the notes on how to do the calculator. Now, I'll show you a syllabus in a moment of what's covered in this tier 1 book, but this book teaches them how to use the calculator, and it also reviews or teaches them the rules of arithmetic. You got to understand the rules of arithmetic. So when they get done with tier 1, they'll really be in a really good position now to go on and start learning more math. And what's the most important thing is it turns their psychology around. You're going to be amazed at this. I know you have a lot of students that have difficulties at home. They have learning challenges. I don't call them disabilities, challenges. You're going to find that for a majority of these students, this is going to turn them around. You're going to be amazed by it. If it doesn't work and it doesn't turn them around, and it doesn't work for them, then I can't really help. My program probably won't help them. But I'm going to tell you, probably 90% of your struggling students will be able to do this and will like it. And that's the most important thing, is the psychology of the students. Triad math, The top thing is psychology. If you don't get the psychology of your student right, they're not going to learn math. They're not going to like it. They're not going to learn it. They don't like it. They're not going to learn it. Grace Libman's story will tell you that in the book. Okay. Proper content I've mentioned to you, and the pedagogy. The pedagogy is the tutorials. It's the exercises. It's the quizzes. It's where the coach comes in to every time they climb one step up the ladder, another exercise, the coach goes, hey, that's great. Everybody applauds that. Never have two students competing with each other. One student will always be faster than the other. That's fine. One student will always be higher up the ladder than the other. Doesn't matter where you are. I have a PhD in mathematics, and there's lots and lots of people that are way ahead of me in math, always will be, always have been. And there's lots of people behind me. It doesn't matter. Okay, there's that. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go back to the sharing the screen, and I'm going to show you the just what we're going to teach them in the syllabus of this. So if you go to my website, craighane.com, and if you move down a ways, there's a lot of information on my website. And by the way, at the bottom is my contact information. So you may call me or email me, and we'll do a Zoom call or whatever. But this is my syllabus. This is a 6-tier syllabus. My training goes all the way through calculus and differential equations for STEM students. But I'm talking about the first 2 tiers now for struggling students that you're trying to get turned around. So if you click on that, that will take you then to the syllabus. Now, here's what they're going to learn in the in the special math education program. First of all, they're going to learn the calculator. Now, there's 16 lessons, and they love it. And it doesn't take most students that long to go through it, but there's no time limit on it. It's self-paced. Some students might go through this in a week or 2. Other might take a couple of months and back and forth, because students are distracted. As you very well know, they miss a lot of school. They have all kinds of problems, and that's okay, because this is self-paced. You're going to have them in a classroom, by the way, working on the internet on a computer. It's all done through the internet, and it's all self-paced, and every student's got at their own pace. There's 16 lessons on how to use it. And you might notice down at the bottom here, these are trig functions. You might say, whoa, trigonometry for beginners. I'm teaching them how to use the keys on the calculator right now. I'm not teaching them trig yet, just how to use the keys, that later then they'll find a value. Now, some of these are going to, and a lot of these keys, they won't know what they really are good for until later on, but they're learning to use them, the square root key, the reciprocal key, the square key and stuff. Then I have, still in tier 1, some pre-algebra. Now there's 10 lessons, and this really now should be reviewing what they've already learned in elementary school, but a lot of them haven't learned it or they don't remember it. So this is the rules of arithmetic. How do you do it? And using the calculator. Now, here's what happened. This is going to amaze you. Most students, when they get done with it, they go, oh, math is easy. I didn't know math could be this easy. And I said, math doesn't get any harder than that when it's taught properly with the right content. And here's what we do. In tier 2 now, the first thing I teach them is algebra. Now notice how many lessons there are. There's only 10 lessons in algebra. This is what I call practical algebra. Practical algebra. This is the algebra that you use most of the time in solving ordinary practical problems in all sorts of technology fields. And if you learn this algebra, you're going to be ready now to use algebra to solve problems. And then you combine that with geometry. Now, geometry, again, this isn't proving theorems and doing a lot of theoretical stuff. This is practical geometry. How long should something be? What should be the area? What should be the volume? And it's practical geometry, and they love it. And you have to apply algebra to it. So now you're combining algebra and geometry together. And notice there's only 19 lessons in geometry, 19 lessons. And this is all the practical geometry you need. When I was doing work with the NASCAR race drivers, like Dale Earnhardt was my #1 customer, and his racing team, Osland Racing, I was doing all sorts of problems for them using this math: practical algebra, practical geometry, and of course a calculator. I didn't have as good a calculator back then as I do now, but it was still a calculator. Now, there's certain things you can't do with geometry and algebra when it involves angles. So then you need a subject called trigonometry. This is practical trigonometry. And notice now, it's only 7 lessons. In fact, and that's all the practical trigonometry you need. And of course, I have another notebook for tier 2. This is the tier 2 notebook. Now, they're not textbooks, These notebooks have the notes in it for each lesson. Each one of these lessons has a video. Comes off of Amazon Web Services, and the student has in control of the video. It has exercises that they're taught how to do in the video, and it has it has notes to go with the video, because I don't want them to sit there watching the video and trying to write down notes. That's crazy. That's nuts, pedagogically speaking. They can add to the notes. So there's the notes, there's the exercises, and there's the quizzes, and they're climbing the ladder. And there's only 7 lessons for practical trigonometry. So this is what you get. Now, most students will go through this, tier 1 and tier 2, in less than a year. Some students may do it in a month or 2 or 3. They can go fast. Some students will take longer. It depends on the student. It depends on their aptitude, on their background, on their ability, on their home life. How many times do they miss school for God knows what reasons? Maybe they're sick, whatever it might be. This is something I've been doing now for over 10 years, and the success story with students is phenomenal. I have all sorts of testimonials from homeschool parents that gave up on math in school. They said, my student just can't learn in school, and they do it at homeschool and they learn it. Well, you can do it at school. You set up a classroom that has computers in it hooked to the internet, and you have a coach, and that coach could even be an advanced student. In fact, I have training for coaches. So it could be a part-time coach that you hire that helps you. It could be a semi-retired person. It could be a more advanced student. It's wonderful training for students, by the way, to help other students. And then they come in and they study. Each student then would have their own notebooks. And by the way, I have a wonderful printer for these notebooks. These notebooks are quite inexpensive. So when you got to buy the notebooks, each student gets the 2 notebooks, but I'll be able to sell these notebooks for less than $10 because of this fabulous printer I've got that you may have heard of. It's a company called Amazon. They print them very cost effectively. Amazing. So what I want you to do as a school leader, I want you to think about what you can do with your students that are struggling with math. This could be 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th, 10th, on up, however. And the earlier we catch them, the better, because when we get them turned around psychologically with math, that'll make many other classes much easier to understand. But it'll give them self-esteem. It'll give them self-confidence. It'll keep them in school. How many students do you have dropping out of school because of math? Because they give up, well, I can't learn math. I hate it. It's terrible. It's awful. I don't like it. And I'm not going to graduate, and blah, blah, blah. And they quit. And that's a horrible thing today. And by the way, once a student gets through these 2 tiers, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. I meant to go back and share the screen and show you just exactly what's covered in them. Well, actually, I did already. And I showed you the syllabus. Okay, you can go look at it. When they cover that math, they're ready for the military. They'll be better prepared going into the military than almost any high school graduate. The facts are, when the students learn the math in these 2 tiers, tier 1 and 2, they will know more mathematics than 95% of all the adults in the United States. Believe me, they'll know math that most adults do not know because they haven't been taught it. It's not because the adults are stupid or incapable, but no one's taught it to them. You won't find this math in any high school math textbook. Just take any textbook you got and go try to find just those topics, not mixed in with all kinds of other stuff that's irrelevant. It's theory that's premature. It's manual tools they'll never use. I mean, I look today at a lot of these books and I just go, oh my golly, I can't believe how bad it is. And that's what you're faced with. Now, the nice thing is you can call this special education. So you don't have to necessarily meet the state criteria that wants you to use these horrible books. You can say, well, this is special education. This is for students that are failing. And call them whatever name you want to assign to them. They're not handicapped really, but they can't learn the standard math curriculum. And that's most students, frankly. And you'll be so successful doing this. And then it's gonna make everybody feel so good. It's gonna make the parents feel so good. It's gonna make the people that support your school. This can be done very cost effectively. We can talk about the money and all that. Obviously, it's not free. You have to pay something for it, but it'll probably be much more cost effective than whatever you're doing now. And in particular, if the students aren't dropping out. If you keep students in school succeeding, just think what that's worth. financially to the school. I mean, the states pay so much per student usually and that sort of thing. We'll keep them enrolled, but more important than keeping them enrolled, make them successful and get them ready for a military career or a non-professional technical career. Now, you'll have some of these students, a few of them are going to say, hey, this is so great, they want to go on. And as you'll learn in my books, that then my next tier 3 is getting students ready for college, for the SAT and the ACT. And by the way, it takes a lot of little tricky math to do that, but not very much math. And once they get through and that, if they're not interested in science and technology and engineering and math, STEM, they can be done, because that also has some, in tier 3, there's some consumer math and quantitative reasoning type thing. But then if they're interested in STEM, if you have a few students who want to go into science and engineering, wow, tiers 4, 5, and 6 are phenomenal. That's another story. I don't want to get into that now. Right now, I want you to help the struggling students. So this has been a rather long video, and I appreciate you watching it, but this is what it's about. If you are a school leader, you owe it to your students and really to everybody that's a stakeholder in the school to explore this and prove it. And we can prove it, and we can do it in such a way that the only students you pay for are the ones succeed. I mean, it's not like you got to pay a whole bunch of money and then it doesn't work. You try it out with students, and a high percentage of them will succeed, and then you pay for that, and you don't have to pay for the ones that it doesn't work for. And God help you for what you do with those, I don't know. But this will work for most of your students. So this is Craig Hain, Dr. Dell. My students call me, you call me Craig, obviously. My PhD in math from Indiana University. I've been teaching math. You'll see in my vita many years at all levels, from really from 7th grade struggling students all the way through graduate school students in advanced theoretical math. And this is the way to go. And the technology lets us do it today. Well, I couldn't have done this even 5 years ago, probably, or 10 years ago. I couldn't have done what we can do today because of the technology. So this is Craig Hain. I will see you then. Hopefully give me a contact and we'll get together and hopefully help you save a bunch of your students. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.